Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight, and welcome to our webinar on staying engaged with your junior high students, stepping back, not out. So our presenters tonight are myself. I'm Crystal Terrace. I'm the middle school adjustment counselor at Hampden Charter School of Science West, and I have 5 years of school experience, 4 at Hampden Charter.
Hi, I'm Joan Normand. I'm the school social worker. I work at both East and West at Hampden Charter, and I have 20 or so years of experience in schools.
So this is what we'll be going over tonight. We'll start off, we'll talk about discovering effective communication techniques to strengthen your relationship with your teenager, learning how to show interest in your teenager's activities and hobbies, finding out how to set boundaries and rules while fostering independence, and discovering ways to spend quality time with your teenager and providing emotional support for them. So we'll start off with a poll tonight. So our first poll question is, how satisfied are you with the level of quality time you spend with your student? We'll give a minute for people to fill the poll. Okay, so I'm seeing a mix of responses, some for both answers. Some people are pretty satisfied, while some would like to spend more time with their student. And it looks like more people would like to spend more time. So let's talk about that more.
So spending time with your students, especially at the junior high age, is difficult. The struggle is really real. As the parents of emerging young adults, it's hard to balance between guiding them down the right path and allowing them to take the path we may not have chosen for them. It's important to remember that we have armed our children with the traits and values of our family and the ones we want them to take with them. It's time for them to take what we've instilled in them and decide what works for them and who they are as a person. We can show our support during this process by continuing to have conversations, demonstrating an interest in their activities, spending quality time together, while still setting boundaries and providing a space for independence. Communication is probably your best key to your relationship with your junior high student. The way we communicate with our adolescents on a daily basis is what sets the stage for the big uncomfortable conversations. To help ensure our teens are comfortable in discussing the big things with us, it's important that we develop an open, trusting relationship for the everyday conversations. The most important approach is to have positive communication. In order to do that, we can show interest without being intrusive. Our teens are so closed and not willing to tell us much. It's hard to not push when we want information and be parts of their life. But this is a skill that our middle schoolers are developing. Your student may appear disinterested and closed to the communication. Maybe they are, but it's more likely a lack of knowing who they are as a person and how to maintain that relationship with you. The best way to do that is to ask questions to show that you're interested. However, don't push to the point where they're uncomfortable. Let them know when they are comfortable and ready to talk that you're there and willing. Another great way to talk to your teen is to use open-ended questions. These kind of questions, they're reflective in nature, but they also don't allow for the shoulder shrugs and the I don't knows and the yes, no. An open-ended question really opens up for communication. You could ask things like, what was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? How'd your presentation go? Ms. Terrace will talk about later, but that really shows interest in their life, that you knew there was a presentation and what it was about. Did you get to sit with your friends at lunch? ask your teen questions that pertain to who they are and their individual interests and likes. Next, you really want to demonstrate good listening skills, and that's not only in the verbal, but that's in the body language communication. Good listening includes being aware of your gestures, your movements, make sure you're smiling, nodding, showing that you're listening. Be really aware of our facial expressions when we're communicating with our teens. It may seem ridiculous what they're saying, but make sure it doesn't show on our face. Make eye contact, but don't stare and make them uncomfortable. And always ask a thoughtful question that shows that you are listening. If you're confused, ask for clarification, and make a statement that pertains to the conversation. Those test questions sounded really hard, or I can't believe she did that in class. That's hysterical. Last, we want to have a safe space for the communication, and this would work well when we have to have the big conversations with our teens. This safe space, it's not a physical space, but it's the connection you've made to allow for open and honest conversation. The conversation shouldn't be forced. It should be information shared between you and your child, but not judged. There should be respect for your child's point of view, even though we're not always going to agree or understand their thinking. When the safe space is established, it will allow you to share your thoughts and your feelings. Make sure that we share in a way that when we don't agree with our student, that they don't feel bad or wrong. It's just two different perspectives. And remember, they're developing their own identity, so they may not even be 100% sure of what they're thinking right now. Once you have the good communication, it's the basis of the relationship, and to strengthen it, you need to show that you care. Letting your adolescent know you care does not mean that your relationship is always going to be smiles and sunshine and happy. Our children need to know that we love and accept them. They flourish with this knowledge of being loved and accepted, even when we don't agree. It could be as simple as treating your child with the same kindness and compassion as you do with the other important people in your life. So if they're telling you a story about school that's really important to them, and grandma calls, you want to make sure that you give them the attention, and maybe let grandma know that you'll call her back, or don't answer the phone at that moment. It's also important to provide validation and approval. So navigating adolescence is one of the most difficult stages in development. And that's actually why I dedicated my career to that age. I remember how horrible it was personally. It's a time of disconnecting from their parents, finding their independence while still wanting and needing the guidance, but not knowing how to let you know that. They desire this from you because they love you, and they know you're going to help them make the right choices. If they don't receive this approval from you, they're going to go other places that we may not agree with what advice they're going to get. And then we definitely want to eliminate judgment and criticism. When your child is developing who they are, we don't always understand or agree their thoughts, actions, ideas. Even if you strongly disagree with your teen, it's important not to criticize or judge them or their ideas. Remember, making mistakes is a part of the process. Do not keep reminding them of the past mistakes. Shame is such a part of being a middle schooler that they got that on their own. They don't need us to add to it. They need us to build them up. They need us to point out the positives, even when they're hard to find. And then decision-making. So your teen is beginning to approach life with their own new perspective. Your teen started to making decisions for themselves. You want to allow the opportunity for this to happen, to make their own decisions, whether it be something simple of the way they dress, or they decorate their space at home, joining a family outing. This will help them develop the skill to make the big decisions with the best information. When they're making these little decisions, make sure there's wiggle room for them to change their mind. A teen's reasoning has not fully developed and they're acting on instinct and reactivity, and that leads to a lot of indecisiveness. In order to strengthen the relationship, the most important thing to do is to spend time together, get to know each other, create memories, laugh together. This will all assist in developing the relationship. And Ms. Terrace is going to talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, so let's talk about discovering ways to spend quality time with your teenager. So spending time together can be really important when you're trying to stay engaged with your teenager's life. Although just hanging out in the same space sometimes can be comforting and that serves its own purpose. Quality time looks like more than just, watching TV together, or just hanging out, in the living room on your phone. So there are times when you really want to be paying attention to each other. If one or both of you are on your phones a lot, like Miss Norman said, answering the phone or talking to other people, scrolling on social media, that time together might not be as effective as when you're both giving your full attention to each other. So spending time together can be planned beforehand, like going to a sports event or a concert, or it could be more spontaneous, like deciding to go out for ice cream or just going for a walk. On that point, time together doesn't have to involve spending money. So taking a walk outside, playing basketball in the driveway or at the local park, having a game night at home, those are all good examples of cheap or free activities that you can do with your child. There are also a lot more ideas on the internet. So if you just Google free activities to do at home with kids, you can find like hundreds and hundreds of things. Good ideas, maybe have your kid, help you pick out an activity with something that they might like to do, or maybe they have their own idea. That would be great as well. And then your child's school may also offer free or cheap activities that families can attend or participate in with their students, like movie nights, sports games, other kinds of game nights, and things like that. And when you're spending time together, you can provide your student with emotional support during those times. A lot of times just by having your presence and building that relationship. So that's why it's important to try to build time together with your student into your daily or your weekly schedule. So establishing a routine for spending time together, again, like a daily walk after school, or having a meal together every day, whether that's breakfast in the morning or maybe dinner might be a little more relaxed in the evening, that you can have more time to talk. Spending that time together every day can just make that time more predictable, and it's not something that your child needs to ask for if they don't want to ask sometimes. They know that that's going to happen on such and such a day, or every weekday or something like that. For some families, it might work better to let your child take the lead on that, but for others, it could be more effective for the adult to create the routine. So just, whatever works for your family and seems to work with your child. So once that routine time together is established, then it can make it easier for your deeper conversations, and as a result, your relationships to form between yourself and your child. So by giving your child your physical presence as much as possible with your busy schedule, we all know parents are very busy, but having that time that you give to your child that's giving them more than you might think it is. So they might appreciate that more than they might say. And you show them that you'll be there for them. So, when they need somebody to be there, they know that you're someone that they can come to for emotional support. So, they have that time together with you. They know, like, oh, after school, I'm going to hang out with my parent or guardian, and I can tell them about, something that happened, or some way that I was feeling today, and talk about what was going on. They know they're going to see you at that time. So it's important to show interest in what your student enjoys. So it can sometimes be difficult since we know that students are at a critical time of gaining independence. As Mrs. Norman said before, you don't want to push too much. You want to, sometimes can just have a casual conversation with your student. It could be during meal times again, or really any time when you're together. So that could be in the car, around the house, asking questions about their life, like what's their favorite thing to do right now, or what's something that they want to do. Maybe there's an activity they want to try that you can help them get involved in. Or you can ask them, like when they're at home, what are their hobbies? What are their favorite activities? Is there something that they want to do at home that they would like to do with you maybe? And when they're at school, what's their favorite class? What's their favorite non-academic part of the day? When they hang out with their friends, what do they like to do together? And if they participate in activities like sports or school clubs, talk to them what they enjoy about those activities. So if you and your student have any shared interests, that might be a little simpler as you can relate to their experiences more easily. But if you don't have any previous experience or interest in what your child enjoys, which is very normal, we live in different times. Things that you enjoy as an adult, as a parent, might be very different than what your child enjoys, and that's totally okay. But it's still, you can still find ways to be engaged with them, and at least learn about the things that they like. Or try to find out how you can engage in an activity in a way that works for you and your child. So that could be simply just talking about it, making sure to ask those open-ended questions like we mentioned before. Or if your child is open to it, you might even be able to participate in the activity in some way. For example, so if you've never played a sport that your child is on a team for, but maybe at home you can help them practice. You could have fun playing like a 1-versus-1 game, or get the rest of the family involved in practicing or just having fun with that sport. Or if you aren't really into video games, but your child loves Minecraft, as many children do these days, you could ask them to show you something that they've built in the game, show them, their characters, and things like that. They might be willing to show you. Let's see. And you can also see if maybe they're interested in something that you do. So whether that's a hobby that you have, maybe they want to, learn about it or check it out. Or even just something like if you're cooking dinner or something, they, see if they want to come and learn how to make something. Maybe they can pick what they want to make and you can help show them how to do it. That could be cool. So I do want to note that while asking all these questions is important, we don't want to ask all of these questions at once. Like we mentioned before, take it slow, focus on, one topic for one day and then, ask for more details, but be aware during these times of how much your child is willing to respond to you. Maybe if it's a time that they don't seem like they want to talk, that's totally okay. You can maybe ask them about it another time. Or things like that. So you really want to be aware of how your student is feeling in those moments. If they're in a good space to talk at that moment, or maybe that's the time they need their privacy, that's okay too. Or if maybe like if they're in the middle of a video game, that might not be a great time to ask them about the video game. If they could pause it and maybe talk to you, that would be cool. But sometimes they want to finish what they're doing. That's good. That's okay too. So as we mentioned earlier, basically using the communication skills that we talked about earlier in the presentation can be really helpful to making the conversation non-judgmental, open, and honest. Those are very important things.
So while we've learned to listen to our children and communicate with them and create these relationships, we also remember that we're the head of the household. It's our home. So we're going to create boundaries while we're fostering their independence. So we're going to use boundaries instead of rules. Boundaries are a necessary part of all relationships. When our children are young, we gave them rules. As they grow into adolescence, the rules become boundaries. Ideally, we're going to develop these boundaries together, when to you know, when can I go in your room? When can I not go in the room? When are you expected to be home? What language and music and such is allowed in my home? Including your child in the development of the expectations and boundaries gives them a greater understanding of why they exist and allow their opinions to be heard, and makes them feel a part of it and more likely to cooperate with the boundaries that are set. This is also a time for discovery. So through our teen years, our children are discovering themselves. They're finding out their likes, their dislikes, discovering their personalities, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. This discovery comes with excitement, a new self-ascent, a new sense of self. This time is when our children need us the most, even when they don't think they do. So maybe look for those nonverbal cues that they need your input, and don't fight against the self-discovery process. Doing so could hurt the connection that you've tried so hard to develop and establish. Remember, although it's hard, that this is not behavior towards you. This is part of the developmental process. It could feel as if your adolescent is trying to do everything in their power to push your buttons, get on your last nerve. What actually is happening is their brains are developing at this increased warp speed, and the constant changes in their brains mixed with the hormonal changes of puberty creates a perfect storm of messy emotions and presents very impulsive behaviors. There are major changes happening in your adolescent from the ages of 12 to 24. Yes, I'm sorry, it does last 12 years. Your child will experience emotional changes that vary with great intensity. There could be mood swings. You can go from having your sweet, loving little child next to you to a moody, reactive teenager that you don't even know who they are. This is not personal. This is a result of the rapid hormonal and developmental changes. They're being driven by the need to make connections. And unfortunately, this is a period in their life where they're disconnecting from us, and the connections they need and want are from peers and friends. The friends provide a sense of belonging and fulfillment. But if you help your junior high student develop these healthy relationships, it's not only going to help the junior high years, but it's also going to help develop the skills needed for healthy relationships as adults, whether they be platonic, professional, or romantic. The developmental process also creates the need for letting their creative side and having new experience. This could be done, as Ms. Terrace was saying, with the different activities you're exploring together. But there's also going to be a period where they might want to engage in risky behavior. You can help minimize that risky behavior by participating in what they're doing, and shifting your role from making the decisions to encouraging them to make the best decisions that honor who you are as a family, but also work for them in their development of themselves. When we're fostering independence in our middle schoolers, they're developing themselves in ways that will definitely test our patience and turn our hair gray. And most importantly, remember to keep your cool, remain calm, breathe deeply, remind yourself this is not personal, and enjoy the good times when they're there. Take an opportunity to spend the quality time together. Know you will both survive this, and you have just helped develop an amazing individual who will be so much in our society and world.
Okay, so before we move on to our last topic, we have just another poll here. So the question is, how ready are you to have your child grow up? That could be pretty hard, so I'm going to launch the poll. Okay, I'm going to give it a few more seconds to answer the poll for anyone who would like to. So the options we had were not ready, or I think I'll be okay. You know, I don't know if anyone will be 100% okay as we watch our children grow up. It can be definitely an experience, but it looks like most people are feeling ready, so they're feeling okay. So that's awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna end the poll now. Thank you for those who responded. And so finally, I just want to talk a little bit about engaging with school. Staying involved and engaged with your child's school is another great way to build connections with them. So besides from just asking them about their school day, their favorite class, or what they learned that was interesting, having those deeper conversations with those open-ended questions. A lot of times I think, your child might come home when you say, how was school? And they say, eh, and that's it. So if they are open to, answering a few more questions, talking a little bit more about the school day, that can be a little hard to get out of them. And if they don't want to, that's totally okay. Again, we don't want to push or pressure them too much. So you can encourage, but obviously, again, don't force your child to participate in any school activities or after school clubs, and then talk with them about what they enjoy about those things. So your school might hold events for families again. So if you and your child go to any of those events, that's a great opportunity to either spend time with your student at their school at the events, or letting them go and have fun with their friends while you maybe get to know some other parents in the school community. And if your student wants to go to an event by themselves or go with friends, again, that's totally okay. Your school's parent-teacher organization often will have opportunities to get involved in school as well. And then you want to make sure to attend your parent-teacher conferences and update your child's teachers and school counselors with anything that might affect their academics or social emotional well-being. That can be really helpful in making sure your child has any extra support that they might need during school. And many schools also have newsletters or social media pages that you can follow for updates. And again, while all of these things can be important for engaging with your child, remember that they might view too much involvement with school more negatively than positively. So you want to gauge how your student is feeling, find a balance of involvement versus fostering their independence. So school is, that's their space. So again, gauge, how willing they are to have you and your family engaged in the school. What are some things that they would like you to do versus where would they like to do things on their own at school. So here's our list of resources that we use for the presentation, and that's all that we have for tonight. So thank you everyone so much for coming. And we will now have a question and answer session. So please let us know what questions you have by typing them in the Zoom chat and we will answer them.